A house is a special place. It's special because it's a place where you are safe, a place where you can grow and develop, a place for peace and rest, and it's a place where you belong. A house that's missing parts can be a mess. A house that's missing parts isn't that peaceful. At Eastside, we want to create environments that are safe, that give people the opportunity to grow and develop. Environments that lead to peace, rest, and belonging. We want to create environments that help people discover and rediscover Jesus Christ. This isn't something we can create with the building alone. It takes a lot of parts working together with one goal in mind. Together, we help create safe spaces. Together, we help create places for growth. Together, we help others discover peace. Together, we help individuals find belonging. Together, we can create an environment that helps people discover and rediscover Jesus Christ.
Well, good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Good. Well, welcome to Eastside. I'm Ben. I'm the executive pastor here at the church. You guys are truly in the best place this morning. We have a special morning. I'll get to that here in a second. But like this video said, it takes more than a building to have a great house of worship, to have a great church. And for the next 3 weeks, we're going to have an opportunity for each of us, everyone, to get involved in a ministry and serve here at the church. We believe this, that when you connect through serving, that it gives you a place to belong. We believe that it connects you with others and connects you with God in a unique way, and it's something special about serving. And so in the seat backs in front of you, you'll see these purple cards, and you can grab those, fill them out. It has information, or I should say it lists the ministries that we are have tables in the back of the room. And so if you turn around at some point, you'll notice this, that each of those listed here also have a table represented, just to kind of show off their ministry and really give you a chance to get plugged in that way. So it's real simple, just name and a couple of contact information spots, and that way we can follow up with you and get you plugged into a ministry because we believe that's a big thing. And it's a special opportunity for us to not just connect with others, but to point others to Jesus and to share that love with them. And so it's a big deal to us. So I encourage you guys to do that. If you don't do it this week, you can do it online, and you can also do it in the weeks that follow or the weeks to come. It's a special Sunday. If you follow us online, then you've already seen this. If you've seen this on social media, or if you follow us on social media, you have already seen this. But Mike Gonzales is going to be here this morning. Mike, you can come this way. Mike has been here on staff. He's recently retired. He's worked here for 13 years, and he's a special guy. He's really been a mentor to all of us who have been on staff, and so we love him. He has a special place in our heart. But Mike has recently written a book called If You Love Me, You Will. And I'll get kind of these details out of the way, but after service, if you'd like, he has a table set up in the East Lobby where you can go, you can purchase a book, you can make his hand it probably already is sore from all those signings, but he's signing the books, and so do that, make him write you a really long note on the inside so that his hand's cramping at the end of the day. But Mike truly is someone special to us, and so we're pleased and excited to have him here this morning. If you guys could give an Eastside welcome to Mike, I'd appreciate it.
I just want to get a good look at you guys for a moment. It's been a long time. It's been, probably 3 years since I've been on this stage speaking. And I don't do this a lot. So last night, I started getting a little nervous. I don't know why, I just started getting nervous. And then I couldn't go to sleep. So I started taking Tylenol PMs. And about midnight, I took the third one. And it still didn't work. And so it was probably, 4 or 5 o'clock before I finally was able to fall asleep. And I don't know why. But it happened, and here I am, so I'm a little bit woozy still. And I am not responsible for anything that comes out of my mouth. That's the nice part about it. As Ben said, I was on staff for 13 years here. For those that don't know me, Mike Gonzales and my wife, Linda. is right here in front. I was actually at the church for 25 years. Biggest part of my life was spent here, and my heart is still here. I think people that know me here know that. And I want to take a moment and just thank Pastor Fred and this staff, because it's not a common thing for pastors and staff to give up their pulpit to someone who doesn't work here. And they allowed me to come back and do this, and I am so grateful to Fred and this staff, because I know the staff likes to get their turn too. I used to be that guy. And so I appreciate so much. You got a wonderful staff here, and I just want you to know how gracious they have been to me. And I also understand that Fred likes to start out his sermons with a little silly joke. And so I don't want to break tradition, so here's my stab at it. So this three-legged dog comes walking into cowboy church. His 3 spurs just a-clinking, 6 guns just slapping him on his furry side. Walks straight up to the pastor, looks him straight in the eye, and he says, "Cowboy, I'm here to find the man that shot my paw." Okay, I'm no Fred. And I'll tell you how else I'm not like Fred. You don't see Fred with a stack of notes. That man can stand up here and preach all day long right from his mind. My brain doesn't work that way. It just doesn't, especially after a night like I've had. But I'd have these anyway. So I want you to forgive me for looking down at notes the whole time, because if I didn't, I'd get off on some tangent and probably be talking about golf or something. Any golfers in here? We can talk later. So why am I here? Well, it's obviously not to tell jokes. That's not the purpose. And it's really not even to sell a book. It's not the purpose of being here. I believe that God has given me some ideas about life and love and relationships that, quite frankly, if I didn't share them with other people, I think that would be very unloving. And so that's why I wanted to put these ideas into a book, and that's what I want to share with you, is those ideas with you today. Let's see. The name of the book is "If You Love Me, You Will, ... That ... is very important, because I think we've all said or had people in our lives that said this to us: if you love me, you will. Right? Well, sometimes that can be healthy. Like if someone says, "If you love me, you'll help me with the chores around the house." Right, ladies? If you love me, you'll help. How about if you love me, you'll place boundaries around your life so you're not tempted by what life has to offer? If you love me, you would do that, wouldn't you? And Jesus says, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. But sometimes it's in a very manipulative and unhealthy way. Like the alcoholic who says, if you love me, you'll get me another drink. The gambler would say, if you love me, you'll loan me some more money. The child might say, if you love me, you'll let me eat the whole chocolate cake. Or sometimes us adults say that to ourselves. We let ourselves have things because we don't always love ourselves appropriately. And I want to talk about those kinds of love today. The reason I titled it, If You Love Me, You Will, is the huge, and I mean huge, implication that comes along with it. And this hit me years ago, that if I thought about it in these terms, I hope it impacts you the same way. If Jesus said, if you love me, you will obey my commandments or keep my commandments, doesn't that imply if you don't love me, you won't keep my commandments? That implication is heavy. When I sat and pondered and thought through my life of all the times that I didn't obey, that I didn't do what he asked me to do, of how unloving that was to him, it wasn't just breaking a rule. I was being unloving to my God. And how many times I've been unloving to my wife, how many times I've been unloving to my friends, and even to myself when I didn't make the right choice for myself. That was a conviction that was pretty heavy on me, so I began this kind of silent journey to learn what loving and unloving behavior in my life looked like and what it was supposed to look like. I believe with all my heart that this little book is packed with some ideas about how to love God and others and even yourselves in appropriate ways. And I think some of them you probably never even considered before. It took God quite a while to get through to me some of the principles in this book. So I'd like to start by sharing what I believe God says about what love is and what it should be. There are primarily two Greek words in the New Testament. You probably heard them before, agape and phileo. But I want you to really understand what those two words mean. Phileo love. Phileo love is a love of the heart, a love of the emotions. It's very natural. It's the kind of love that you naturally feel in your heart for others or for family. We kind of feel it or we don't feel it. It is what it is. It's either there or it's not. But it can also be greatly influenced by the ideas in our mind. Agape love is a love of the mind. It's a love of the will. It's making willful choices for the good of God and others. It must be learned. See, it's not so natural. It's not just in us unless you come from a family that understands it and practices it, and that's very rare. So this idea of agape love has to be learned. And sometimes the heart agrees with your agape love, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's actually opposed to it. And you can see by the image on this cover, there's a heart on one side of the scale, and there's a brain on the other side of the scale. And I chose that because it very well depicts what love, the kind of balance we need in order to love properly. Because if we just love from the heart, it can take us to bad places. I think we all know that. Where would you say, tell me where you think the best place to learn about love is? Where's that? Church. And where does church get it? From the Bible. And the Bible comes from God. 1 John 4:8 says this: whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. Love is who He is. It's what He is. It's what He's all about. And shouldn't the best ideas about love come from the one who says that this is who I am? Let's look at why a proper understanding of love is so important in our lives. Matthew 22:34 through 40. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. You see, everything contained in the law, everything that the prophets ever spoke about, has now been given a new context in which to operate. And that is agape relationships. Because in those verses, every instance of the word love is a translation of agape. The mindful, willful choice to make the best decisions for everyone concerned. Now, I said to make willful choices to do what is best, not necessarily what makes us feel good. That's phileo love. Sometimes you get the warm fuzzies when you make an agape decision. Sometimes the heart disagrees and doesn't feel good about it. Let me give you an example. Would you allow your children to eat sweets all day long? Raise your hand if you would. I hope I don't see any go up. No, you can't have sweets all day long. You need to listen. I'm just kidding. You wouldn't, would you? How about, would you let them have hot dogs at every meal? Shh. Or pizza at every meal? You wouldn't do that. Why wouldn't you do that? Because it's not good for them. And why do you do things that are good for them? Because you operate from agape love. Oh, it feels good sometimes when you allow it. It feels good on both parts that you allow. If I let you eat the whole chocolate cake, you'd love that, wouldn't you? And you'd feel good and you'd feel loved by me. But at that point, it can actually become unloving. If I let them do things that are not good for them, because I know better. I know what's good for them, and regardless of how I feel or how they're going to feel, I need to do what's best for them. I think we all understand that in our relationship with children. We don't always understand it in relationship to that inner child that we all have inside of us. Sometimes we have to tell that inner child, no, that's not good for you. And we're not always very good at that. Agape love must take precedence, or we will end up actually doing what's unloving to God, to others, and even ourselves. I want to share a verse with you that uses both instances of agape and phileo love in it. Both of these words are in the same one. I don't always like talking about Greek words, but it's important to understand the difference because all you see is the word love mentioned twice in this. And I want to show you the difference. 1 Thessalonians 4:9. Now about your love for one another, we do not need to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love each other. The first mention of the word love here is the word Philadelphia. It comes from two words, philo and adelphos, which means an emotional, heartfelt love for your brothers and sisters. We call that brotherly love. But it's an emotional love for your brothers and sisters. The second mention is the word agape. It's making mindful, willful choices for the good of your brothers and sisters. Now, I want to reread that with those two ideas in mind, and I think you'll see the difference. Now, about your love for one another. That's phileo, that emotional heart love. We do not need to write to you. He said, I don't need to even talk to you about the emotional phileo love within you. That's natural, and you have it for each other. So he doesn't even need to mention it. But he says, you were taught by God, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love each other. And there he used agape. You have been taught by who? God. To make mindful, willful decisions that are good for your relationship with God, with those around you, and even for yourselves. You have been taught by God. I don't need to talk about the heart love. It is what it is. It's hard to talk to that and say it's wrong. You don't correct somebody's emotions. But you can talk to their mind so they can make willful choices that are better. Now, what does it mean when we don't make willful choices? When we don't have agape love for God or for others or for ourselves? Well, most people in here have probably seen a dartboard. And on that dartboard, there's a little red circle right in the middle. That's called the mark. It's the mark. There's actually a game that you can play to see who can get the most bullseyes in the least amount of time, or who gets there first. And if you get a point if you get it in the bullseye. If you don't, you miss the mark. It's that simple. Well, there is a Greek word that literally translated is miss the mark. And it's the word hamartia that we translate sin. That's the word we translate sin. And I tell people sometimes I'm uncomfortable saying the word sin because it carries such this enormous weight with it, this weight of condemnation and judgmentalism that comes with the word sin. And that's not what God's trying to get us to understand. He's trying to get you to understand when you do that, you miss the mark. You miss the mark. Anything outside of loving God appropriately, or loving ourselves appropriately, or loving others appropriately, is missing it. Now, this idea of missing the mark, we don't often think of it as sin. If I miss the mark in my relationship with my wife, I have been unloving to her. I missed it. And you know what? In my marriage, I've done that often. And when I learned this principle, because sometimes what I do to her isn't in a rule. It's not in the law book. It's not in the Bible. I was unloving to her, and I sinned against her. Sometimes when I talk to a person, I think we've all been around someone who we would call legalistic, a legalistic believer. They think you should follow all the rules, follow the law. It's actually kind of sad to me because they don't get the weight of what missing the mark is. See, you can make all the nice little rules out of the Bible, and you have so many, and well, quite frankly, we don't even follow those very well. But when you start talking about just missing the mark in your relationship with God and those around you and even with yourself, how many more times do we miss the mark rather than break a rule? And those missing the marks are so much more and so much greater. And I say that not to induce guilt on anyone. That's not the point. Jesus Christ died for that. When you understand that He died for all of those missing the marks and not just breaking a rule here and there, you see how much bigger what He done for us is. It's huge because we all miss the mark probably every day, either in our relationship with God by being unloving to God, unloving to someone around us, or unloving to ourselves. We just flat out miss it. I could, in my relationship with God, I could not include Him in an important decision in my life. Is there any rule against that? Is there any biblical law against that? No. But I'm missing the mark because He wants to be involved in our lives. And when we miss it, we miss it. And there's no one to tell you that that's sin. But that's what it is. And like I say, that's why Christ died. And when you start thinking about it in those terms, you see how much Christ has actually done for us. And if we could just for a moment thank Jesus Christ for the amount of times that I missed the mark personally, and I know you can think of your own, that's what he covered. Not the breaking of the rules, but every time you missed the mark in one of your relationships. Can we clap for him and thank him? You see, it's not about condemning. God doesn't want to show you how you missed the mark to condemn you or to judge you. And that's what many people will try to get you to believe. He covered that. He gave his son for that. That's why he died. Now he wants you to understand that when you miss the mark, he wants to lovingly show you how to hit it. That's what he wants. He's not after you. He's not a killjoy that's just waiting to come down on you. He wants to teach you how to hit the mark in all of your relationships. It's kind of like having a kind and patient and loving professional dart player right at your side. And every time you throw it and you miss that mark, he says, "That's all right, Mike. You missed it. Here's why you missed it. And let me show you how to do that a little bit better. So pretty soon you'll be hitting the mark." That's the God we have. He wants to teach us how to love him back. And from there, we learn how to love each other appropriately. And from there, we learn how to love ourselves in appropriate ways. See, God is all about relationships. The Bible is all about relationships. And I believe it's possible to miss the mark even when we think we're doing the right thing. Let me give you an example. I've talked to several men actually in relationship counseling where the man has had an affair on his wife. And I've asked him, because she needs healing, I've asked him to look in her eyes and tell her why she can believe that it won't happen again. And these are true life answers that I've received. Because I don't want to lose you. And I don't want to be alone. Then I have to interrupt before he buries himself any further and he hurts her any worse. How much more selfish can you be? You've just destroyed this woman and you're talking about you. About what you're going to lose and what you don't want to be. And you've done nothing to make her trust you again. How about this? How about telling her how you have come to understand what you've done and how it made her feel? And be specific about how you destroyed her dreams, about how you stepped on her self-esteem, about how you made her feel unloved and unvalued, about how you understand that when she was a little girl, that she would come out in that pretty dress and dance for her daddy. And she'd say, "Look at me, Daddy. Love me, Daddy." And her father and God handed that precious little girl over to you to nurture and to protect. And you trampled on that. And that you don't ever want to do those things to her again. And how you trampled on God's trust when he handed that girl to you. And you stepped all over it. And you don't ever want to do that to God again. And how her family handed you that girl and trusted you with her. And you stepped on them and you don't ever want to do that again. Now, that doesn't always mean that your behavior is going to be perfect after that. It does, however, mean that she may look at you and say, I think you're starting to get it. It's not about you, it's about me and what you've done to me, and I think you're starting to get it. And from there, she might actually be able to start to trust again. But we do that all the time in our relationships when we hurt each other. We don't really spend the time to contemplate what I have done to my God, what I have done to that person, and what I have done to myself. Because when we apologize, apologies are very shallow unless they come with some reasoning of why I understand what I've done, what it's done to you, and how I might put boundaries in my life to keep it from happening. Sometimes that takes therapy. Sometimes I have something inside of me that's just doing that. And I need to figure out what it is so I can stop hurting God and the people around me. But I promise you, people will not trust just, I'm sorry. They will trust, or they can begin to trust, if they think you get it. And then there's the idea of loving and respecting oneself in appropriate ways. And that wasn't it. Doing the right thing is not always for the right reason. So we need to put thought into how our choices are going to show our agape love for God, for those around us, and even for ourselves. I want to give you a powerful thought right now. This quote that I'm about to quote to you has been the most powerful sentence in my life. And I hope you will listen closely and ponder it. It was actually quoted to me from a man right here in this congregation, Dr. Paul Carlisle. I don't know if any of you know Paul. Is Dr. Paul here? I don't think he's here right now. Here's what Dr. Paul said to me one time, several years ago. The will cannot choose from ideas the mind does not hold. Now, this man's a pastor, therapist, and a brilliant man. The will cannot choose from ideas the mind does not hold. You see, we can only respond to life from whatever's inside of us. Whatever that is. We're like water bottles. When you put enough pressure on the side of a bottle, what happens? Something comes out. What is it? It's water. Why does water come out of that bottle when I put pressure on it? Because it's what was put in there. That's what's in it. Nothing else can come out of that bottle but what's in it. Our souls are no different. Whatever is in there is going to come out when life happens. If you want something different to come out, what do you have to do? Put something different in there. Right? You know how many times I heard the phrase, Pastor Mike, that's just how I am. That's just the way I am. You know what my pat answer is? Well, let me tell you something, sir. Just the way you are is very hurtful to the people around you. It's very hurtful to your God. And someday I hope you see how hurtful it is to yourself. So it's time to not just be that. It's time to put something different in there so something different can come out of you. Our souls were formed by life. They have in them whatever is in there. From our learning, from our experiences, whatever it is that's in there, when life happens, it's going to come out. I believe, and the reason I wrote this book is to put ideas down and get it out to more people. To get ideas in their mind and in their thinker about loving God and loving others appropriately. I think this book is full of those kinds of ideas, and I hope, whether it's through this book or learning, I hope that you see the value of that quote. I hope you see the value of it, and that you really ponder that, and you say, what kind of ideas do I need to be putting in here so that something different comes out of me, and not just being satisfied with the way I am. It's very important. It's about making willful choices to have agape love, not just phileo and emotional love and feeling good about God and each other. It is about making willful choices to do what is best in God's interest, in our relationship with Him, to do what's best in our relationship with the people around us, and to do what's best and right for ourselves, not necessarily what feels good. And I hope this book can teach people that. All right, now, I would like to give a couple of them away. The first one, and I think I know who it's going to be, and I didn't plan this for this person, but I think it's going to turn out that way. I want to give it to the couple that's been married the least amount of time. When did you get married, Levi? Last Saturday. Now, I did the same thing in the first service, and when I walked in, I immediately seen Levi, and I thought, I know who's probably going to get that book. Has anybody gotten married since last Saturday? Probably not. Come and get your book, Levi. Now, you are going to make him read this, right? Because there's some important principles, especially, a lot of these things are natural to a woman because they're very relational, but us men need some help. I'm just telling you. Thank you. I've got one more. This is a tough one. I talked about two Greek words in the New Testament that are translated love, agape and phileo. There's actually one more. Does anybody know what that word is? It's translated love in Romans and in 2 Timothy. It's only twice in there. Does anybody know what that Greek word is? It's a very important word. Somebody guess. Eros. Eros is a Greek word that is translated love. It's a love of the passions and desires. It's actually not in the Bible. A lot of people think it is, but it's not in there. It's not in the Bible. There is one other word that's in there. Anybody know that word? Okay, then I will give it to the one who at least tried and said eros. It is the word storge. It's actually in the Bible both times. When you put an A in front of the word, it counteracts it. So it's the word astorge. Literally, it means without natural family affection. In the Bible, it's used in terms of the end times. It says, in the end days, they will be without love, but it uses the word astorge. They will be without natural family affection in the end times. Do you see the breakdown of the family structure today? And I'm telling you, it's a sign that Jesus is coming. I don't know when. I'm not a predictor. But you see more and more the breakdown of the family structure, and it is predicted in the Bible. And if you don't know that word astorge, you just see the word love. They are without love, and we apply that to everybody. Well, we are very unloving to each other, but it's very specific. In the end times, you will see the breakdown of the family structure. And we see that today. So work hard on these ideas of agape. I don't have to tell you to work on your phileo love for each other. It's right here. It happens. Or it doesn't. There's no excuse for not doing the right and loving thing for each other in this world. And there's no excuse for not loving God back, except that we're self-focused. Whoever said eros come and get your book. Oh, it's right. Oh, it's your wife. I thought it was a woman. So your voice is a little higher than I remember it. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
My wife and I will be out here in the lobby. If you would like to purchase one of these books, they're actually a couple of dollars cheaper than you can buy them on the internet. But if you'd rather buy them on the internet, you can go to my website at ifyoulovemeyouwill.com or my Facebook at ifyoulovemeyouwill. And I want to say one more thing. If you can't afford it, please don't be shy. Come and whisper in my ear and tell me. I have these little cards. I have them in here somewhere. They're little cards where you can go online and get a free ebook. So if you can't afford it, come and whisper in my ear and I will give you one of those. I want you to have it. Boy, it has been good to be here today. And it's like a reunion for me. I know there's a lot of new people here in the last couple of years, and you're probably going, who is this guy? Or clown, or whatever you want to call him. But this was my home for 25 years. Now I'm going to cry. And I love you, Eastside. And if I could, thank you very much. It's all right, you don't have to do that. My heart will always be here. And I think we all know that life changes and it throws curves at you. But I can honestly tell you that I love you from my heart, and I have always tried to love you from my will as well and make the best decisions for you. So if I could, I'd like to pray for you before I go. Father, I'm just humbled to be back in the place that you taught me so many things. To be able to come up here and be allowed by Fred to have one more time. I'm just thankful, and I love you, Father, for that. God, I love the work that you're doing in these people. I pray, Father, that for all of us, that somehow we would get this idea in our mind that we need to learn how to love you back. Not just follow the rules. The rules mean nothing. It is about loving you. It's about loving each other appropriately. And God, we don't always know how to do that. I don't always know how to do that. But I want to learn, and I know that these people want to learn as well. So, Father, give us new ideas. Put them in our minds so that our will can choose to love properly. God, I pray your richest blessings on these people. Love them, protect them, build them, and more than anything, keep them growing towards you and towards each other. We love you and bless you in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I want to give Mike a chance to head back to his table. Just a reminder, the books are back there. He'll be back there signing them as well. You better hurry. And like I said, we want to make his hands heard. Again, I want to thank you, everyone, for choosing Eastside to spend this Sunday morning with. And I want to just thank you guys. Hope you all have a good rest of your weekend and a great week. Love you guys.